man accused of setting fire to a restaurant in the Poconos turned himself in at federal court in Wilkes-Barre today.
This is the same man who back in the late 80s starred in an episode of Unsolved Mysteries because he claimed he could make it rain. And to this day, that case is still a mystery to police in Stroudsburg. Newswatch 16's Reagan Medji is in the newsroom with the unusual story. Reagan.
Well, good evening, guys. Donald Decker voluntarily turned himself in this afternoon in federal court in Wilkes-Barre for setting a restaurant on fire last year in Tobyhanna. Now, this isn't the first time Decker has had a run-in with the law. Back in the 80s, police in Stroudsburg investigated a bizarre case involving Decker, which remains a mystery to this day.
This is Donald Decker of Goldsboro when he was interviewed on the primetime national show Unsolved Mysteries back in the 80s for being known as Rainman, a man who could actually make it rain. Now he's getting attention again, but this time he's facing federal arson charges for setting Dana's restaurant and tavern in Tobyhanna on fire last year. Investigators say he was hired by the owner to burn down the business. Decker voluntarily turned himself in at federal court in Wilkes-Barre. Back in the early 80s, Donald Decker was known as Rainman to Stroud Area Regional Police, who say Decker could make it rain. Detective Richard Wolbert was on the case back then and says he still can't explain it.
Water traveling, flying around the room horizontally.
The case grabbed national attention, and Decker's story appeared on the TV show Unsolved Mysteries years later. This is Decker being interviewed and Detective Wolbert. Wolbert says the call back in the 80s started off as an investigation into a plumbing problem at a home in Stroudsburg where Decker was staying at the time.
I mean, it definitely wasn't a plumbing problem. It was just appearing and then flying around the room. And I was still wearing glasses at the time, and I was getting struck in the face with it. So it was really strange.
Wolbert says it's a case, to this day, he has no explanation for.
There was something going on in the house, and I really don't know what it was. His explanation was that a relative had passed away and had something to do with it, but that came from him.
And Donald Decker is free on bail. Officials say it's because he is not a flight risk. Now, as for the unsolved mystery involving Decker, Newswatch 16 tried to interview more witnesses, but they turned us down because they say what they saw is just too upsetting and just too creepy to talk about. Reagan Medji, Newswatch 16 live in the newsroom.
All right, Reagan, thanks so much for that.